Welcome to today's deep dive, customized specifically for you, the ever-curious learner. Today we are looking at a 2025 Mexican Supreme Court ruling,
Yeah.
specifically Amparo Directo in Revision 3320/2025.
Right, and just to clarify that term right out of the gate for you, an amparo is it's a specific type of constitutional protection lawsuit in Mexico. It is essentially the ultimate legal safeguard when someone feels their fundamental human rights have been violated by the system.
Exactly. And the mission for this deep dive is to see what happens when those constitutional rights collide with rigid bureaucracy. We're exploring how a deeply touching, decades-long human story completely forced the legal system to rethink its definition of family when it comes to Social Security.
It's a remarkable clash. It perfectly highlights the tension between strict union contracts and the much messier, complex reality of human relationships.
Okay, let's unpack this because the facts here are incredible. We have a family doctor working for the IMSS, which is the Mexican Social Security Institute. After he passes away, the person applying for his ascendant pension was not a spouse or a child, it was his aunt.
Right, and to understand why she applied, you really have to look at their history. This doctor's parents died when he was just 12 years old. His aunt stepped in immediately. She raised him, she paid his way through medical school, and they lived together for over 40 years, operating in every way as mother and son.
40 years. That is amazing. She completely altered the course of her life to make sure he succeeded. And from what the case files show, for the last 20 years of his life, that dynamic shifted, and she became entirely financially dependent on him.
It's a textbook example of reciprocal lifelong care. But what's fascinating here is how the bureaucracy responded to that lived reality. The IMSS flat out denied her pension.
Which, on the surface, sounds incredibly cold.
Mm.
But, legally speaking, they actually had a structural reason for doing that, right?
They did. The IMSS was strictly following the text of their collective bargaining agreement. You have to remember, they have a massive pension fund to protect. The negotiated text of that union contract explicitly states that this specific ascendant benefit only goes to direct descendants in a straight line.
Meaning formal biological parent.
Parents or grandparents.
Right.
Precisely. Because she was a third-degree collateral relative legally classified as an aunt, the IMSS simply looked at the formal paperwork, saw she didn't fit the exact biological category, and denied the claim.
Here's where it gets really interesting. She didn't just accept that bureaucratic no. She took this fight all the way up, and the Supreme Court ultimately ruled in her favor, overturning that strict union interpretation.
Yes, and the mechanism the court used is the core of this whole case. The court decided to establish a functional definition of family, prioritizing that over a purely formal one.
I love that distinction.
Right.
Functional versus formal.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a massive clash between a rigid contract and overarching constitutional rights. The court declared that mechanically applying that collective bargaining agreement to exclude her actually violated her fundamental human rights to equality, non-discrimination, and family protection.
Because in every functional, practical sense, she was his mother.
Exactly. The Supreme Court stated that the reality of economic dependence, solidarity, affection, and mutual support carries far more weight than a strict biological title. She acted as his mother when he needed it most, raising him and supporting him, so she legally earned the protections of a mother.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, it represents a massive legal shift. It shows that the law is finally catching up to the reality of modern family dynamics. We are moving past a world where systems just look at outdated legal labels and moving toward one that prioritizes true caregiving and actual lived relationships.
It really is a paradigm shift. And this raises an important question. If the justice system now officially recognizes that love, care, and economic ties can legally transform an aunt into a mother for financial benefits, how long until our other rigid legal definitions of identity are completely rewritten by the reality of our chosen families?